Hey guys, so this is gonna be my recipe for my coconut passion fruit cheesecake. This is definitely my new favorite cheesecake flavor to make. So not long ago I went to a restaurant and they had this coconut passion fruit cheesecake that I tried and I just fell in love, so I had to make it. So after some trials and errors and a lot of adjustment, I finally found the recipe that I like. So watch this tutorial and let me know what you guys think. So here are the ingredients we're going to be needing for our coconut passion fruit cheesecakes. So for our crust, we're going to be using some Oreo cookies. We're going to crush that up and then add about 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And then we're also going to add some shredded coconut in. And then I'm using today the 4-inch mini cheesecake pans. I'm going to put them into these. And then for our filling, a coconut filling, we're going to need about 12 ounces of cream cheese at room temperature, 2 large eggs at room temperature also, about 1.5 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of coconut extract, and about like 3-4 cups of like the coconut milk or coconut cream. I like to use this brand of coconut cream. And then for the passion fruit glaze that's going to go on top, we're using fresh passion fruits. I love the taste of passion fruits, so this is what I'm using. Passion fruits are really expensive though, and it's hard to find depending on where you live. But here in Sacramento, California, it's really hard to come by passion fruits. So to make a passion fruit glaze, we're going to be using gelatin. Okay, so let's get started. So you're going to want to smash this up really finely. I like to put them in a Ziploc bag. This makes it really easy to do because you just start smashing. So do this until you get the cookies to be all nice and fine. So you're going to want them to be pretty fine like this. And then now to our bag, I'm going to add about like 1 teaspoon of the shredded coconut. I'm just filling this out, so around there. Mix that in. And then I took the butter, I melted it, throw it in, and then mix it. We keep doing this until they're all really nicely mixed together. When you're all done, it should look something like this. So now we're going to put this into our cheesecake pans. So show you what I do. I'm going to put about like 3 spoonfuls, however thick you like your crust. And then you're going to take like a smasher and you're just going to just smash it until like you get a nice flat layer. So something like that. And then this recipe can make about like 3 4-inch mini cheesecakes, or if you like to do like the really mini cheesecakes that I have been making. Here, let me show you what I mean. I have some in the freezer right now. These are like my really mini cheesecakes. Oh, if I can get them out. So the recipe can make about like a dozen and a half, like about 18 mini cheesecakes if you use this recipe. But today I'm making the 4-inch mini cheesecakes. So I'm gonna go and do the other 2. So now I'm gonna bake these for 5 minutes at 325 degrees. So now let's make our coconut cheesecake filling. Put your cream cheese into the mixer and mix that until it's nice and fluffy. It's about like 2 minutes roughly. So at this point you can add in your sugar and then mix. Add in the 2 eggs. And then add in your coconut milk. And your vanilla extract. I'm just filling this out, okay? But it's about like 1 teaspoon of the vanilla extract and 1 teaspoon of the coconut extract. About like right there. Okay, then mix that all together. When you're done, your mixture should be something like this. It is going to be a little liquidy, but it's going to be okay after you bake it. Once the crust is done baking, let it completely cool for like 5 to 10 minutes before you pour the cheesecake batter in. This just helps like the crust sit a little bit more before you pour the batter in. In the meantime, start boiling some water, and we're going to be using this hot boiling water to make the the water bath for the cheesecakes. Once they have cooled, put them into the 4-inch mini pans. These are the spring 4 pans. I forgot to mention that. When these are done baking, we're gonna let it cool and put it in the freezer, and then we'll open this up and then we'll take it out. So now we're gonna make a water bath. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take some aluminum foil, some heavy duty aluminum foil. We're gonna wrap it around the mini cheesecake pans. We're gonna stick that into another pan and pour water in there to make a water bath. So let me show you what I mean by that. So take some aluminum foil and you're gonna wrap it up. You're gonna want to be very careful with this. You want to make sure that water is not gonna get in. So I just kind of fold up from all the edges. And they crumble around the top. We're going to be doing 2 layers of this, okay? Now we're going to do a second layer. Exactly the same thing. Fold it up. And then crumble the edges. So there we go. That's the first pan that I did. I'm gonna go and do the other pans. Okay, so once you have it wrapped in foil, you're gonna want to put it into a larger pan, and then in that pan, you're gonna want to fill it about like halfway full with like your boiling water. This is a water bath, and the reason why you need this is it helps the cheesecake cook more evenly. It prevents it from cracking as it's baking. And I also like the texture that it gives the cheesecake. It makes the cheesecake taste a little softer and smoother. So about like halfway there. So we're gonna bake this at 325 degrees for about like 35 to 40 minutes. As you're baking it, try not to open the oven. Try to leave the oven closed. So my cheesecake took about 40 minutes to bake. When it's done baking, it should be like, it's still a little jiggly like that, okay? But that's okay. So now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna cool this very slowly. So what I do is I just take like an oven mitten and I leave it like that. It leaves like a little teeny tiny crack there. And you just let this slowly cool for about 2 to 3 hours. And then after it's done cooling, I like to stick it in the freezer, let it form before we make our passion fruit glaze and put it on top. Mommy. So my mini cheesecakes are done baking. I put them in the freezer. It's been probably about like 46 hours now. I just put it in here and I like went about my day. So now we're going to make our passion fruit gelatin for the top. To make the passion fruit layer, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take the juices and I'm going to strain out the seeds. And then we're going to get about 1 cup out of this, okay? So here's 1 cup of the passion fruit juice. I saved some of the seeds. This is optional. I like to have the seeds into the top. So I'm going to add this back in later after I make my gelatin layer. But if you don't like it with the seeds, you can just leave that out. So now we're going to take about half. We're going to divide this in half. Let's see. About there. So for about half of the cup of the juice, you're going to take 1 teaspoon of the gelatin. And then just mix it in. We'll throw it in, but don't mix it. Just let this sit. It's going to like, they call it bloom, but it's gonna kind of like grow, and it's gonna have this. Oh, you can't really see it, but it's gonna grow this layer on top of it. But just leave it alone. Don't stir it. Okay. And for the other half of the juice, we're going to boil it, and then add about like half a cup of sugar. And then just let this boil and let the sugar dissolve.
Don't look at me.
So when it starts boiling, we're going to add this to the passion fruit gelatin mixture. So pour this in. Ooh, gosh, sorry. sorry, that just totally steamed up my phone. And then stir it.
Yeah.
And then after you finish stirring it, this is the part where I like to add back in some seeds. If you don't like the seeds, you don't have to add it in. It's completely optional, but I like to have the look of the seeds. Makes it look more like a true passion fruit flavor. So anyway, so once this is done, let this cool in the fridge for about like 10 to 15 minutes. Once your passion fruit gelatin has cooled down, we're going to add it right on top. So I'm going to do this to all of my cheesecakes.
I'm a booty dog.
And then now you're just going to stick these cheesecakes into the freezer. I'm probably going to leave it in overnight because it's about 8:30 at night now. We're going to get ready for bed. But I would say give it about 2 to 3 hours at least, maybe even 4 hours to completely form. You want it to be nice and solid before you take this. Okay, so let me show you guys how I'm going to take this out of the springform pan. So I took it out of the freezer, let it sit for about like 10 minutes. So it should open up. Sometimes if it's still too frozen, it's not going to open up or it's going to give you a hard time. So you might have to like push it open like I'm trying to do right now. It's giving me a hard time. I probably needed to wait a little longer. Anyways, okay. Coming out now. There we go. Ooh, gosh, there goes my phone. Okay. There's a cheesecake. So then, that's how it looks like. So, let's see. There's the bottom piece here too. I forgot to mention a cruel step that I forgot to do. Is you want to line the bottom of your pan with some parchment paper so that this will come out easier. But because I didn't, I had to be extra careful about how I take it out. If I had parchment paper underneath, this would be a lot easier. Oh, okay. It came out nice and neatly. There we go. Alright. So there's our cheesecakes. So let me show you guys how I dress it up. Okay, these next steps are totally optional, but I like to always dress up my desserts a little bit. You can now just eat it like this. It's totally good just like this. But it always tastes better when it looks pretty. So this is just some whipped cream. I'll link below like my whipped cream tutorial. I use this tip. Gosh, which tip is it? It's the can you see that 1M Wilton tip, okay? So, like you just saw, I pipe around a little flour. It's really easy. You just go in and around, and then I like to give it a little bit of a gold shimmer. So I just use this gold spray. Spray it on. Oh. Now I'm running out. There we go. Forgive me. Didn't realize that my spray was like pretty much out. Okay. A little bit of gold. Sorry, my son's in the background. And then I put some sugar sprinkles on. I feel like this gives it the like effect of it being a wet petal. Alright. And then I always top it off with a raspberry. So there you go. So hopefully you guys enjoy this tutorial. And let me know if you try this recipe and what you think. This is my new favorite cheesecake. Totally have to try it if you've never tried it before. It's so good. It's delicious.